The wrecking ball arrived on a Tuesday, which seemed unnecessarily cruel. Maya pressed her palm against the frost-covered window of the attic dormitory, watching yellow machinery rumble through St. Helena's iron gates like mechanical beasts. 18 years she'd lived within these crumbling walls, and now they'd give her exactly 48 hours to pack a lifetime into 2 suitcases. They're really doing it, whispered Jen, her closest thing to a sister, appearing beside her. Where will you go? Maya's throat tightened. At 18, she'd aged out anyway. The demolition just made it official. The other girls had somewhere. Foster families, distant relatives, college dorms. Maya had an efficiency apartment waiting across town and a job at a call center that started Monday. Freedom, they called it. It felt more like falling. I'll be fine, Maya lied, her reflection in the glass looking unconvinced. Her dark curls were wild as always, and her brown eyes held that same wary look she'd seen in childhood photos. The look of someone always preparing to lose everything. Sister Catherine's voice echoed up the stairs. Girls, start packing. We need everything cleared by Thursday. The other girls scattered, but Maya lingered. From here, she could see the entire grounds. The garden where she'd learned flowers' names, the oak tree with her initials carved beside 24 others, the chapel where she'd asked God why her parents hadn't wanted her. She'd never gotten an answer. Come on, Jen tugged her sleeve. Help me pack? I don't want to do this alone. Nobody does, Maya murmured, but she followed, memorizing the creak of each floorboard. Some goodbyes required preparation, others you'd never be ready for. The building groaned around them, settling into its final days. Maya's belongings fit into a single duffel bag, which said everything about her life. She sat cross-legged on her narrow bed that evening, sorting through her pathetic pile of possessions. 3 pairs of jeans, worn sweaters, a battered copy of Jane Eyre, and the threadbare baby blanket that had come with her 18 years ago. Sister Catherine said it had been tucked around infant Maya in the basket left on St. Helena's steps, a pink gingham square that had faded to something closer to gray. You're taking that ratty thing? Jen asked, folding her own clothes into a neat suitcase. She'd always been better at organizing, at everything. It's all I have from before. Maya ran her fingers along the blanket's frayed edge, feeling the familiar softness. Then her nail caught on something hard. She frowned, examining the corner more closely. The lining had separated slightly, revealing a dark shape beneath the fabric. Her heart quickened as she picked at the loose threads. What is it? Jen leaned closer. Maya's fingers found cold metal. She pulled, and stitches popped free, revealing a small rusted key that tumbled into her palm. It was ornate, old-fashioned, with an elaborate bow decorated with strange geometric patterns that seemed to shift in the lamplight. Holy shit, Jen breathed. Has that been there the whole time? Maya turned the key over, her pulse hammering. It felt heavy, important, like it meant something. Why would someone sew a key into a baby's blanket? Maybe it's for a safety deposit box? Maya, you could have an inheritance. But Maya barely heard her. The key was warming in her hand, and those geometric patterns. They looked almost like architectural drawings, like tiny blueprints etched into bronze. And beneath the rust, she could just make out an engraving. St. Helena's. It's for here, she whispered. It's for something in this house. Midnight found Maya creeping downstairs she'd descended 1,000 times before, but fear made them unfamiliar. The basement was forbidden, had always been forbidden. Structural damage, Sister Catherine claimed, though Maya had seen her emerge from down there just last week, looking shaken. Now, with the key clutched in her sweating palm and a flashlight barred from the kitchen, Maya descended into the dark. The air grew colder with each step, carrying the smell of mold and something else, something like ozone before a storm. Her flashlight beam caught on stone walls, old pipes, forgotten furniture draped in sheets like ghosts. The basement was larger than she'd imagined, a labyrinth of small rooms branching off a central corridor. Maya walked slowly, trying each door she passed. Storage closets, coal rooms, a dusty wine cellar, all locked or empty. The key remained cold and inert in her hand. Wrong, all wrong. Then she saw it. At the very end of the corridor, almost invisible in the shadows, was a door that seemed older than the others. The wood was darker, the frame more ornate, carved with the same geometric patterns as her key. But what stopped her breath was this: the door was humming. Not loudly, just a low vibration she felt in her bones, like standing too close to power lines. Maya approached slowly, her flashlight beam shaking. There was no lock visible on the door, just a small, circular indentation in the wood at chest height. She raised the key. It was glowing now, faintly, with a light that seemed to come from inside the metal itself. The geometric patterns were moving, rearranging themselves into new configurations. "What the hell?" Maya whispered, and pressed the key into the indentation. The door exhaled. The humming stopped, and in the sudden silence, Maya heard the lock click open, welcoming her home. What Maya saw beyond that door made her question every certainty she'd ever held. The room was impossible. She stood in the doorway, flashlight hanging limp in her hand, trying to make her brain accept what her eyes showed her. The space was far too large. The basement room somehow contained what looked like an entire architect's studio, complete with vaulted ceilings that shouldn't fit beneath the orphanage's foundation. But that wasn't the strangest part. Everything inside was frozen in a single moment from another era. A calendar on the wall read, June 1952. A record player sat with its needle hovering above vinyl mid-song. Tea steamed in a cup that should have gone cold decades ago, and dust motes hung suspended in the air, unmoving, like someone had pressed pause on reality itself. Maya stepped inside, and the door shut behind her with a definitive click. She spun around. No handle on this side. Her heart lurched. No, no, no. Then she saw the drawings. The walls were covered with them. Massive architectural blueprints, unlike anything she'd studied in her drafting elective. These weren't plans for normal buildings. These structures bent and folded back on themselves. Staircases that led to their own beginnings. Rooms that existed in multiple places simultaneously. Equations covered the margins in cramped handwriting. Formulas that mixed mathematics with something that looked almost like music notation. In the center of the room stood a large drafting table, and on it lay a single envelope. Maya's hand trembled as she picked it up. The paper was cream-colored, expensive, addressed in elegant script. For Maya Elena Architects, on her 18th birthday. Architects. That was her last name, only because she'd never had one. Sister Catherine had chosen it randomly from a book. But seeing it here, written in this frozen room, made it feel like prophecy. Maya opened the envelope with shaking fingers. The letter inside would change everything. My dearest Maya, the letter began, and Maya's knees gave out. She sank into the chair before the drafting table, eyes devouring words written by someone who'd known her name before she'd existed. The handwriting was beautiful, precise. The handwriting of someone who built impossible things. If you're reading this, then you survived to 18. And for that, I am grateful beyond measure. I am Vera Architects, your grandmother, though I will never have the joy of holding you. I am writing this in 1952, and you will not be born for another 53 years. Time is flexible in our family. Reality is not fixed. And you, my darling girl, are the last of us. We are reality architects, have been for 12 generations. While others build with brick and mortar, we build with space itself. We create rooms that exist between moments, structures that fold dimensions, doorways that lead nowhere and everywhere. This room you stand in is my masterwork, a pocket of frozen time where my life's research can wait for you, untouched by the decades between us. Your mother, my daughter Catherine, was meant to teach you, but the assembly discovered us. They are architects too, but they build prisons, not sanctuaries. They believe reality should be rigid, controlled. They learned Catherine was pregnant with a child who would inherit full architect abilities, something that skips generations and appears only rarely. They tried to take you before you were born. Maya's hands shook so hard the paper rattled. Her mother had a name, Catherine. Sister Catherine? No, impossible, yet your mother hid you where they'd never think to look. In plain sight, in the very institution we'd built generations ago as a safe house. St. Helena's was always ours, though the church doesn't know it. The sisters believe they're running an orphanage. In truth, they're guarding our legacy. The key I sewed into your blanket will activate on your 18th birthday. This room contains everything you need. My research, training manuals, the tools of our trade. But Maya, you must learn quickly. The assembly is still searching, and this room is dying. As if responding to Vera's warning, the room shuddered violently around Maya. She grabbed the drafting table as the floor tilted like a ship's deck. The frozen tea suddenly splashed from its cup, and the record player's needle scraped across vinyl, releasing a haunting melody before jumping back to stillness. The calendar pages fluttered. June became July, became August, flickering through months before snapping back to 1952. Maya's heart hammered. This was what Vera meant by dying. The room's temporal freeze was breaking down, and judging by the cracks now spreading across the ceiling, it wasn't going quietly. She forced herself to focus on the rest of the letter. The room is anchored to St. Helena's foundation, but that anchor is weakening. When the orphanage falls, this pocket dimension will collapse, and everything I've preserved will be lost. More importantly, the collapse will create a dimensional rift. Both realities, this frozen moment and your present, will begin bleeding into each other. The damage will spread like a wound that cannot heal. You must stabilize the room before the demolition. The plans on the east wall show how. But Maya, my darling, I won't lie to you. This is dangerous work. One mistake and you could trap yourself between moments, neither alive nor dead, neither here nor gone. The assembly knows this room exists now. I can feel them probing the dimensional walls. They'll come for you and the research. Trust no one completely. The assembly has agents everywhere, even among those who've cared for you. But trust yourself. You carry 12 generations of knowledge in your blood. Close your eyes and you'll feel it. The way space bends around you, the way dimensions whisper their secrets. You were born for this. With all my love across time, Grandmother Vera. A louder crash shook the room. Maya looked up to see one of the blueprints peeling from the wall, aging rapidly. The paper turning brown, then black, then crumbling to ash. The room was dying faster now, and somewhere above, she heard footsteps descending into the basement. Someone else knew she was here. Maya's breath caught as the footsteps stopped just outside the door. She looked around desperately. No other exits. No windows in this impossible room, just walls covered with blueprints that were beginning to fade and curl at the edges. Decades of decay catching up in minutes. She grabbed the nearest plans, the ones Vera had mentioned about stabilizing the room, and shoved them inside her jacket. The doorknob turned. Slowly, deliberately. Maya's hand closed around a compass from the drafting table, the old-fashioned kind, sharp enough to serve as a weapon. Her heart pounded so loud, she was sure whoever was outside could hear it. The door swung open, and Maya raised the compass, ready to fight. Sweet Jesus, Mary, and Joseph! Sister Catherine stood in the doorway, clutching her rosary, her elderly face drained of color. But she wasn't looking at Maya. She was staring at the room behind her, at the impossible space that shouldn't exist, with an expression that wasn't surprise. It was recognition. You knew, Maya breathed, lowering the compass. You knew this was here. Sister Catherine's eyes, roomy with age, but suddenly sharp as glass, fixed on Maya. Your grandmother made me promise, made me swear on every saint that I'd keep you safe. Keep you away from this room until you were ready, her voice cracked. Catherine Architects was my sister. Your mother was my niece. And I've been lying to you for 18 years. The room shuddered again. A crack ran up the wall, and through it, Maya could see something impossible. The basement corridor overlaid with images of a garden from 1952, the two realities starting to merge like a double-exposed photograph. The demolition, Sister Catherine said urgently, stepping inside. It's accelerated the collapse. I felt the dimensional barriers weakening, knew you must have found the key. She grabbed Maya's shoulders. Listen to me carefully. The assembly is already here. They've been watching St. Helena's for years, waiting for signs of architectability. When the room started destabilizing, they knew. You have maybe an hour before the lights flickered, went out. And in the darkness, Maya heard new voices echoing through the basement. Calm, professional voices giving orders. Thermal signatures show 2 people in the sub-basement. Dimensional readings off the chart. Containment team, move in. Run, Sister Catherine whispered, shoving Maya toward the back wall. The plans. Do you have them? Maya patted her jacket. Yes, but then go. The wall behind the filing cabinet. Push the section with the triple triangle. It's an emergency exit Vera built. It leads to the garden. Sister Catherine's eyes shimmered with tears. I'm sorry I couldn't tell you. I'm sorry for all of it. But Maya, your mother didn't abandon you. She died protecting you from them. Now go make her sacrifice mean something. Maya pushed through the secret door and stumbled into a garden that existed in 3 times at once. She could see it all simultaneously. The overgrown present-day garden with its wild roses and crumbling fountain, the 1952 version with neat hedges and blooming flower beds, and something else, a future garden, burned and broken, where St. Helena's was nothing but rubble. The 3 images flickered and overlapped, making her stomach lurch with vertigo. Behind her, she heard shouting, Sister Catherine's voice, firm. There's no one here but me. This room has been empty for decades. Ma'am, step aside. We have authorization. Maya ran. The garden paths kept shifting under her feet, cobblestones becoming dirt, becoming cracked pavement. She clutched the blueprints inside her jacket, trying to make sense of what she'd learned. Her mother hadn't left her. She died for her. Sister Catherine wasn't just a nun, but her great aunt. And reality itself was breaking apart at the seams. She reached the garden wall and stopped, panting. 8 feet of brick, no handholds, topped with ancient iron spikes. Impossible to climb. But as she pressed her hands against the cold brick, something strange happened. She felt the wall's structure, not with her fingers, but with something deeper. She could sense the space the wall occupied, the way it divided here from there. And beneath that, she felt the blueprint of the wall, the idea of it, the intent that had shaped it into being. Close your eyes, Vera had written. You'll feel how dimensions whisper their secrets. Maya closed her eyes and pushed. Not with her hands, with her mind, with whatever gift her bloodline carried. She pushed at the space itself, and the wall remembered. Remembered being a door. Remembered Vera standing here decades ago, teaching a young Catherine how to bend reality. When Maya opened her eyes, there was an archway in the solid brick, its edges shimmering like heat haze. Through it, she could see the street beyond St. Helena's grounds. Impossible, she whispered, even as she stepped through. The archway sealed behind her, brick flowing back like water. Maya stood on the empty street, dawn just breaking, holding her grandmother's blueprints and her first proof that she was, impossibly, exactly what Vera claimed, a reality architect. The apartment was a box with a window, but it was hers, and that was something. Maya locked the door, checked it twice, then slid the chain across for good measure. She was shaking, had been shaking since she'd fled St. Helena's 3 hours ago, taking 2 buses in random directions before finally heading to the efficiency apartment she'd rented last week. It was in a rundown building on 7th Street. 1 room with a kitchenette, a bathroom the size of a closet, and walls thin enough to hear her neighbors' conversations. She spread the blueprints on the sagging futon that served as her bed. In the morning light, they looked less magical, more insane. Drawings of buildings that looped through themselves, mathematical equations that made her head hurt, notes in Vera's precise handwriting about dimensional anchoring and temporal flexibility and the space between spaces. Maya's phone buzzed. Where are you? Sister C said you had a family emergency. Are you okay? Family emergency. That was one way to put it. Maya typed back. Fine. Had to leave early, sorry. Good luck at college. She couldn't tell Jen the truth. Couldn't tell anyone. Who would believe her? She barely believed it herself, except... Maya held up her hand and stared at the wall. The dingy beige wall with its water stains and peeling paint. She closed her eyes and tried to feel what she'd felt in the garden. The structure of space. The blueprint beneath reality. Nothing happened. She tried for 10 minutes until her head ached and doubt crept in. Maybe she'd imagined it all. Maybe grief and stress had finally broken something in her brain. Maybe... Her phone rang. Unknown number. Maya stared at it, debating, then... Hello? Maya Architects. The voice was male, smooth, cultured. My name is David Strand. I represent the Assembly of Dimensional Integrity. We've been looking for you for a very long time. I think it's time we talked about your future. Maya's blood turned to ice. How did you get this number? We've had your phone tapped since you activated it last week. We've been monitoring St. Helena's for 18 years. waiting for Vera's room to open. Your sister was very foolish to hide you there. She should have known we'd find you eventually. My mother, Maya corrected, her voice hard. And she's dead. Because of you. A pause. Catherine died in a car accident. Is that what you tell yourselves? David Strand's laugh was soft, almost sympathetic. You've been reading Vera's letters. Of course you believe we're villains. Maya paced her tiny apartment, phone pressed to her ear. You chased my mother. She died hiding me from you. We offered Catherine protection. She refused. What happened after was unfortunate. He didn't sound remorseful. But Maya, that was 18 years ago. The world has changed. The assembly has changed. We're not your enemy. Then what are you? Custodians. Reality is fragile, Maya. You felt it this morning. The room collapsing. Dimensions bleeding together. That's what happens when architects build without oversight. Your grandmother was brilliant, but reckless. She created dozens of pocket dimensions, each one a potential catastrophe waiting to happen. The room at St. Helena's is just one of them. Maya thought of the flickering garden, the triple exposed visions of past, present, and future overlapping. So you want to destroy it. We want to stabilize it, with your help. His voice turned earnest. You have the gift, Maya. I can feel it from here. Your dimensional signature is extraordinary. Stronger than Catherine's, perhaps even stronger than Vera's. The assembly can train you properly, teach you to control your abilities without tearing holes in reality. We have facilities, resources, other architects your age. You wouldn't be alone anymore. The offer hung in the air, tempting. Maya had been alone her entire life. The idea of belonging somewhere, of understanding this crazy gift, of having answers. And if I refuse? Then Vera's room will collapse when the demolition reaches the basement tomorrow morning. The dimensional rift will spread. First through the orphanage, then through the neighborhood, then the city. Thousands of people caught in overlapping time streams, aging and de-aging randomly, experiencing multiple realities at once until their minds break. All because one girl was too stubborn to accept help. Maya's throat tightened. You're lying. Am I? You felt the instability. You saw the cracks. The mathematics don't lie, even if people do. Without stabilization, that room is a bomb, and the timer is running. How do I stabilize it? Come to us. We'll show you. We're at the Old Meridian Hotel, room 1952. Fitting, don't you think? His voice dropped, intimate. I know you're scared. I know you don't trust us. But Maya, you're standing at a crossroads. Choose isolation and watch innocence suffer. Or choose to be trained, to be part of something larger than yourself. Choose to be the architect your grandmother always hoped you'd become. The line went dead. Maya stood frozen, staring at the blueprints spread across her bed. Room 1952. The year Vera had frozen. The assembly knew things, had resources she didn't. But they'd also hunted her family. Her phone buzzed again. This time, a text from the same unknown number. An address, and beneath it, a photograph that made her heart stop. It was Sister Catherine, bound to a chair, very much alive and absolutely terrified. The Meridian Hotel loomed against the night sky like a tombstone, all dark windows and Gothic architecture. Maya stood across the street, hands shoved in her jacket pockets, feeling the weight of her grandmother's key. She'd spent the day studying the blueprints, trying to understand the mathematics of dimensional anchoring. She'd failed miserably. The equations might as well have been in another language, which, in a sense, they were. Reality architecture wasn't taught in high schools, but she'd learned one thing. The blueprints showed not just how to stabilize Vera's room, but how to navigate it. The frozen pocket dimension had layers, she realized, rooms within rooms, each one folded into a different moment of 1952. And somewhere in those layers, Vera had hidden something the assembly desperately wanted. Maya crossed the street, trying to look casual. The Meridian's lobby was elegant, but faded, like an aging actress in last year's gown. A bored desk clerk barely glanced up as Maya headed for the elevator. 19th floor, room 1952. Her finger hovered over the button. This could be a trap. Probably was a trap. But Sister Catherine was in there, and Maya owed her the truth. That she'd been worth protecting, worth lying for, worth 18 years of silent guardianship. The elevator doors opened onto a hallway that made Maya's skin crawl. The air felt wrong, thick with the same ozone smell as Vera's basement room. The dimensional walls were thin here. She found room 1952 halfway down, took a breath, knocked. David Strand opened the door, and he was not what she expected. Young, maybe 30, with kind eyes and a gentle smile. He looked like a teacher or a social worker, not a monster. Maya, thank you for coming. He stepped aside. Please. The hotel room beyond was impossible. Just like Vera's basement, it stretched back impossibly far, the walls lined with books and artifacts that glowed with subtle dimensional energy. And there in the center, tied to a chair but unharmed, sat Sister Catherine. "It's a trap!" the old woman shouted. "Run!" "It's not a trap," David said calmly. And with a gesture, Sister Catherine's voice simply stopped. Not gagged, but silenced, as if the air between her vocal cords had been removed. Maya stared in horror. "That's just a demonstration," David continued, "to show you what we're capable of, what you'll be capable of with proper training. The question is, are you ready to begin?" Maya's fists clenched. "Let her talk." David waved his hand and Sister Catherine gasped, air returning. "Don't trust him, Maya. They don't want to train you, they want to control you." "Is there a difference?" David moved to a drafting table identical to Vera's. "Every teacher controls their students' knowledge. Every mentor shapes their protege. We're offering Maya what she needs most: understanding. You're offering slavery dressed as education." Sister Catherine strained against her bonds. "The assembly doesn't train architects, they leash them. Make them sign contracts that bind them for life, force them to use their gifts only for the assembly's purposes. We maintain order." David's voice remained calm. "Do you know how many rogue architects have nearly destroyed reality itself? 17 in the last century alone. Men and women like Vera, brilliant but arrogant, who thought they could reshape space without consequence." He turned to Maya. "Your grandmother created 47 pocket dimensions before she died. 47 bombs hidden throughout the city, each one slowly destabilizing. We've spent decades finding and neutralizing them. St. Helena's is the last." Maya's mind reeled. Vera was obsessed with cheating death. David pulled out a folder, spread photographs across the table. Images of buildings Maya had never seen, each one twisted in impossible ways, each one marked with red X's. She wanted to trap moments of her life in amber, preserve them forever. But time doesn't like being caged. Her creations are collapsing, one by one. 3 people died last year when a pocket dimension in the old factory district imploded. He pushed one photograph toward Maya. It showed bodies being carried from wreckage, their faces frozen in expressions of agony and terror. Maya felt sick. "That's what happens," David said softly, "when amateurs play with reality. That's what will happen at St. Helena's tomorrow unless you help us. Not because we're evil, Maya, because we're trying to prevent tragedy." Maya looked at Sister Catherine. The old woman's face was pale but determined. "Show her the contracts," she whispered. "Show her what you make your students sign." David's jaw tightened. "The contracts are for everyone's protection. They're slavery," Sister Catherine turned to Maya. "Once you sign with the assembly, you belong to them. Every structure you build, every dimension you create, becomes their property. You'll spend your life fixing other people's mistakes, never creating anything of your own. Your mother read the contract. That's why she ran." "Your mother was pregnant and irrational," David snapped, his calm cracking. She was free," Maya said quietly. "And you couldn't stand it." The hotel room trembled. David's eyes widened. "Maya, control your emotions. You're affecting the dimensional stability." But Maya wasn't listening. She was feeling the space around her, the way she had in the garden. The room wasn't real, she realized. It was another pocket dimension, a trap built to seem impressive. And beneath it, she could feel the structure, the blueprint, the place where David had made a mistake in his calculations. Maya closed her eyes and pushed. Not hard, just a gentle correction to the mathematics that held this false room together. The walls flickered. The impossible extension vanished, revealing what the room really was. A normal hotel room, maybe 15 by 20 feet, with Sister Catherine tied to a chair and David Strand standing beside a simple card table covered with papers. Illusions, Maya said. You built an impressive illusion to manipulate me. That doesn't seem very honest, Mr. Strand. David's mask of kindness shattered like dropped glass. You stupid girl. He moved faster than Maya expected, his hand shooting out to grab her wrist. But where he touched her skin, she felt it. The dimensional binding he was trying to weave, invisible chains meant to paralyze her in place. The assembly didn't need contracts if they could simply bind people's ability to move through space. Maya did the only thing she could think of. She pushed back. Not physically, she pushed at the space between them, expanding it. David stumbled backward as the distance suddenly doubled, then tripled, his hand grasping empty air. His eyes widened with shock, and something that might have been respect. You have no training, he said, recovering. No understanding of what you're doing. You'll hurt yourself. Then I'll learn from my mistakes. Maya ran to Sister Catherine, her fingers working at the knots. Like my grandmother did. Like my mother did. Your mother died because you chased her. The knots were too tight, pulled by expert hands. Maya closed her eyes, felt the structure of the rope, the way the fibers wound together. Could she? The ropes fell away, unknotting themselves, the space between the fibers simply expanding until the binding collapsed. Sister Catherine gasped, rubbing her wrists. David was speaking urgently into a phone now. She's unstable. Yes, natural ability without training. We need a containment team at the Meridian, now. Go, Sister Catherine hissed, shoving Maya toward the door. I'll slow him down. I'm not leaving you. I'm 78 years old, and I've lived a full life. The old woman's eyes blazed with fierce love. You're 18 with everything ahead of you. Go to St. Helena's. Stabilize that room. Then run, Maya. Run far and don't look back. The hotel room door burst open. Men in suits poured in, moving with military precision. Maya saw devices in their hands, not guns, but something else, something that hummed with dimensional energy. Sister Catherine grabbed a lamp and swung it at the nearest man. Run, child. Maya ran. The hallway seemed to stretch as she sprinted, some defense mechanism of the building activating, turning the corridor into a maze. But Maya could feel it now, feel how the space was bending, where it was thin, where it was strong. She found a door marked emergency exit and pushed through, not to a stairwell, but to the basement of St. Helena's. She stood in the familiar corridor, breathing hard, having somehow stepped between locations. Behind her, the emergency exit door was just a door, opening onto a storage closet full of broken furniture. No hotel, no David Strand, just the orphanage basement, and somewhere ahead, her grandmother's dying room. Okay, Maya whispered to the darkness. Okay, let's finish this. The door to Vera's room hung open like a mouth, breathing darkness. Maya approached slowly, the blueprints clutched in her trembling hands. It was 4 a.m., according to her phone, just hours before the demolition crews would arrive. She could hear St. Helena's settling around her, the building's groans taking on an urgency they'd never had before. It knew its time was ending. She stepped through the doorway, and the room seized her attention like a shout. It was dying faster now. Whole sections of wall had vanished, revealing the void behind reality. Not blackness, but a nauseating space that was somehow both everything and nothing at once. The furniture flickered between states, new and rotted, there and gone. The calendar on the wall spun through years like a slot machine. 1952, 1973, 2004, 1989, back to 1952, forward to 2025, the numbers barely visible through the decay. Maya spread the blueprints on the drafting table, which thankfully remained solid. She'd studied them all night, trying to understand her grandmother's annotations. The key, Vera had written, was anchoring. The room existed in a specific moment, June 14th, 1952, 3:47 p.m., but that anchor was breaking. Maya needed to reconnect the room to a stable point in time. The problem was, she had no idea how. The blueprints showed equations, diagrams of temporal flow, instructions that might as well have been in code. Align the dimensional meridians, stabilize the chronological substrate, weave the anchor threads through the foundational matrix. I don't know what any of this means, Maya shouted at the empty room, at her dead grandmother, at the universe that had dumped this impossible responsibility on an 18-year-old orphan who'd barely passed geometry. The room shuddered. A crack ran across the floor, and through it, Maya saw the orphanage's basement corridor. But wrong, distorted, the perspective twisted like an Escher painting. The two realities were beginning to merge. Think, Maya muttered, forcing herself to focus. Feel, don't think. That's what Vera said. Feel the structure. She closed her eyes and reached out with that strange new sense. At first, nothing. Then slowly, she began to feel it. The shape of the room, not its physical form, but its dimensional blueprint. It was like touching a sculpture in the dark, learning its contours by fingertips alone. The room was anchored to 4 points, she realized. 4 corners of space-time, like tent pegs holding it in place. But 3 of the anchors had rotted away, leaving only one tenuous connection to June 14th, 1952. Maya needed to create 3 new anchors. But to what? To when? Then she understood. The answer was in her pocket. She pulled out the key, her key, the one sewn into her baby blanket 18 years ago. The key that had opened this door, the key that connected her to this moment, this place, this legacy. Maya pressed the key to the floor where the crack was widest, and she pushed. Power flooded through Maya like lightning seeking ground, and she understood, finally, viscerally, what it meant to be an architect. The key blazed white-hot in her hand, but she didn't let go. Through it, she could feel the structure of time itself, not as a line, but as a fabric, woven, flexible, capable of being shaped by those who knew how. Vera had known, Catherine had known, and now, somehow, Maya knew too. The knowledge didn't come as words or formulas, it came as instinct, as muscle memory she'd never formed, as if 12 generations of architects were guiding her hands. She pressed the key deeper into the crack, and the space around it began to respond. Anchor, Maya whispered, understanding the word for the first time. Not a physical thing, but a relationship, a connection between this moment and another moment, bound by intention and will. She thought of the day she was left at St. Helena's, January 3rd, 2007, early morning, snow falling. Her mother's last act, her first breath in this place. That moment mattered. That moment was solid, real, unchangeable. She wove that memory into the crack, using the key as her needle, stitching the frozen June day of 1952 to the winter morning of 2007. The crack stopped spreading. The key cooled in her hand. One anchor, stabilized. Maya moved to the second corner, where reality was peeling away like wallpaper. She didn't have the key this time, but she had something else. The baby blanket, still shoved in her jacket pocket. She pulled it out, the faded gingham square that had been with her every day of her life. This blanket existed in 1952, she murmured, running her fingers over the fabric. Vera held it, sewed the key into it, and it exists now here, with me. It spans the time between. She pressed the blanket to the dissolving wall and reached for that feeling again, the sense of connection, of a relationship across time. She thought of all the nights she'd clutched this blanket, all the tears it had absorbed, all the comfort it had provided. Those moments were real. They had weight. They could anchor. The wall solidified. The peeling stopped. 2 anchors, holding. The room shaking slowed. Maya could feel the structure stabilizing, but it wasn't enough. She needed 2 more anchors, and she was running out of objects that connected past to present. Then her eyes fell on the drafting table, on the letter from Vera still lying there. The letter written in 1952 and read in 2025. Words sent across 73 years, arriving exactly when they were meant to. Maya picked up the letter with shaking hands. A message across time, she whispered. Is that enough? She carried it to the third corner, where the void was hungriest, where reality was thinnest. She held the letter against the void and thought about communication, about intention, about love sent forward through decades. Vera had written these words not knowing if Maya would survive to read them, but believing, hoping, trusting. Trust is an anchor, Maya said, and she felt the truth of it. Trust was a relationship across uncertainty. Faith was a bridge across the unknown, and love was the strongest connection of all, binding people across time, space, even death. The void recoiled, the third corner stabilized, reality sealing itself like healing flesh. 3 anchors. 1 remained. Maya turned to the final corner, where the collapse was worst. The entire section had vanished, revealing not void but chaos, a swirling maelstrom of every moment trying to exist simultaneously. She saw herself as an infant, as a child, as she was now, as an old woman she might become. She saw St. Helena's being built, burning, demolished, rebuilt. She saw Vera, young and old, alive and dying. She saw her mother, Catherine. Her mother was in the maelstrom, trapped in the moment of her death, playing over and over. The car swerving, the impact, the light leaving her eyes. And in that final moment, her hand reaching back as if she could touch the daughter she'd never hold. Maya's breath caught. "Mom." "I can't," Maya whispered, staring at the impossible choice before her. To anchor the fourth corner, she needed something that spanned 1952 to now, something with weight, with meaning, with connection. But she'd used the key, the blanket, the letter. She had nothing left except herself. Maya understood with sick certainty what Vera's blueprints had been trying to tell her. The final anchor couldn't be an object. It had to be a person, someone whose life touched both moments, who belonged to the past and present simultaneously, someone willing to exist between. "No," Maya said firmly, backing away from the maelstrom. "There has to be another way." But the room was shaking again, harder now. The 3 anchors were holding, but without the fourth, they'd eventually tear free. She could feel the mathematics of it. 3 points couldn't support a 4-dimensional structure. Basic geometry. Inescapable physics. Maya pulled out her phone with trembling hands. No signal in the basement, but she typed out a message to Jen anyway, hoping it would send when she got upstairs. "I'm sorry, I love you. Be happy." She moved toward the maelstrom, toward the corner where her mother died endlessly. Her hand reached out. "Stop!" Maya spun. Sister Catherine stood in the doorway, leaning heavily on the frame, blood trickling from a cut on her forehead. Behind her, the sounds of shouting, the assembly, searching. "Don't do it," Sister Catherine said. "Don't sacrifice yourself for this room. If I don't, the collapse will spread." "Let it spread," the old woman's voice cracked. "Let the whole damn structure fall. Your life is worth more than stabilizing one of Vera's experiments. People will die. You said so yourself. And people have died for centuries, and they'll die for centuries more, and that's the way of things." Sister Catherine stumbled forward. "But you don't have to be one of them. Not today. Not for this." Maya shook her head, tears streaming. "You don't understand. I have to. It's what I was born for." "You were born to live." Sister Catherine grabbed Maya's shoulders. "Your mother didn't hide you so you could throw your life away at 18. She hid you so you could have a choice, so you could be free. I am choosing." "No, you're accepting what you think is inevitable." Sister Catherine's eyes blazed. "But Maya, listen, there's another way, another anchor." "There's nothing left." "There's me." The words hung in the air like a held breath. Maya stared at the old woman, understanding dawning with horror. "No, no, you can't." "I'm 78 years old." Sister Catherine smiled, sad and certain. "I was born in 1947. I was 5 years old in 1952. I remember that year. Remember playing in St. Helena's garden while Vera worked in the basement. Remember your mother as a girl. I span the time, Maya. I can be the anchor. You'll die. I'll exist between. There are worse fates." Sister Catherine cupped Maya's face in weathered hands. "I've lived a long life, a good life. Let me end it doing something that matters. Let me save you, the way I couldn't save your mother." Footsteps pounded in the corridor. David Strand's voice. "She's in the room. Contain her before—" Sister Catherine turned and raised her hands. The doorway sealed, stone flowing like water, buying them precious seconds. She looked back at Maya. "Promise me something. Anything. Live freely. Build beautiful things. Don't let them cage you." She smiled. "And maybe, sometimes, think of the cranky old nun who loved you like a granddaughter." Before Maya could stop her, Sister Catherine walked into the maelstrom. The room exploded with light and then went perfectly, impossibly still. Sister Catherine stood in the fourth corner, but not the way humans usually stood. She was there, but also not there, her form flickering between ages. A little girl of 5 playing in sunshine, a young novice taking her vows, the elderly woman Maya had known, all her moments existing simultaneously, woven together like threads in a tapestry. Her eyes found Maya's, and in them was no pain, only peace. "It doesn't hurt," she said, her voice echoing strangely, as if coming from multiple times at once. "I can see it all now, Maya. Every moment of my life, all at once. It's beautiful." The room stabilized instantly, the cracks sealed, the void retreated. The calendar stopped spinning and settled on June 14th, 1952, exactly where Vera had frozen it. But now the freeze was different, not a preservation against time's flow, but a harmony with it. The room existed properly now, held in place by 4 perfect anchors spanning decades. Maya ran to Sister Catherine, reaching for her, but her hands passed through. The old woman was there, but untouchable, existing in the space between seconds. "I'm so sorry," Maya sobbed. "I should have—" "Hush, child, this was my choice." Sister Catherine's flickering form smiled. "And I'm not gone. I'm here, in this room, in this moment. Whenever you need me, you can visit. We can talk, share tea, play cards like we used to. I'll just be between." The sealed doorway exploded inward. David Strand burst through with 6 assembly agents, devices raised and humming with power. They stopped short, staring at the stabilized room, at Sister Catherine's temporal form, at Maya standing defiant in the center. "What have you done?" David breathed. "I anchored the room." Maya's voice was steady, cold. "The way you said I needed to. It's stable now. It won't collapse. No one will die. You got what you wanted." David's eyes swept the space, reading the dimensional signatures, understanding the mathematics. His face paled. "You used a living anchor. That's forbidden." "By whose authority?" Maya stepped forward. "You don't own reality. You don't control who can build and who can't. The assembly is just another group of architects who decided they should make the rules. We maintain order. You maintain control." Maya felt power humming through her now, the room responding to her presence. She was connected to it through the key, through the blanket, through Vera's letter, through Sister Catherine. She was woven into its structure. "And I'm done accepting your authority." She raised her hand, and the room responded. The walls rippled, the floor shifted. The assembly agents stumbled, their devices sparking and dying as the dimensional energy surged. "This is my grandmother's legacy," Maya said. "This is my birthright, and you can't take it from me." David's expression hardened. "Then we'll destroy it and you with it." He pulled something from his jacket, a small device covered in the same geometric patterns as Maya's key, but inverted, reversed. A weapon designed to collapse dimensional structures. "One way or another," he said, "this room ends today." Time seemed to slow as David's finger moved toward the device's trigger. Maya saw it all with crystalline clarity. The weapon's dimensional charge building, the way it would shatter the anchors she'd just created, the cascading collapse that would follow. The room would implode, taking Sister Catherine with it, erasing her between-state existence. And Maya, standing at the center, would be torn apart by the conflicting realities. She had perhaps 3 seconds to decide. She could run. The knowledge flooded through her. She could feel the weak points in space, could open a door to anywhere, escape, and leave this room to its fate. Save herself. Start over somewhere far away. But Sister Catherine would die. Truly die this time. Her between existence snuffed out like a candle, and Vera's life's work, 12 generations of architect knowledge, would be lost forever. Or, Maya closed her eyes and felt the structure of the room. Really felt it. 4 anchors holding a pocket of frozen time. But what if time didn't need to stay frozen? What if instead of preserving one moment forever, the room could flow, could breathe, could exist properly within time's river instead of trying to dam it? "I understand now," Maya whispered. And she did. Vera hadn't made a mistake in her calculations. She'd made a choice. To freeze her work in time, rather than let it grow and change. But that was Vera's fear speaking. Her desperate need to control, to preserve, to prevent loss. Maya didn't have to make the same choice. She opened her eyes and looked at David Strand. "You're right. This room has to end." His finger paused on the trigger, surprised. "What?" "Not the way you think." Maya turned to Sister Catherine's flickering form. "You said you can see all your moments at once. Can you see forward? Can you see what comes next?" Sister Catherine's eyes widened. "Maya, what are you—" "Trust me, one last time." Maya placed her hands on the drafting table, on Vera's blueprints, and she began to work. Not with pencil or paper, but with space itself, with time itself, rewriting the room's fundamental structure. She kept the 4 anchors, but changed what they held. Instead of freezing June 14th, 1952, she let it flow into June 15th, 16th, forward through summer and fall and winter. The room began to age, dust settling naturally, the record player winding down, the tea finally going cold. 7 decades of time caught up in seconds, and the room transformed. The walls remained, but they were different now. Not a museum of the past, but a living space that existed properly in the present. The blueprints updated themselves, equations shifting to reflect the new mathematics. And Sister Catherine, she solidified. Not as the flickering between form, but as herself, whole and present, sitting in a chair that had aged 70 years in moments. She gasped, touching her face, her arms, her body. "I'm here," she breathed. "I'm here, not between here." Maya sagged against the table, exhausted. "I changed the anchors. Instead of holding a moment frozen, they hold a space. Just a space. A room that exists properly in the now. You're not trapped between anymore. You're just here." David lowered his weapon slowly, staring. That shouldn't be possible. The equations don't allow—" "The equations allow anything," Maya said tiredly, "if you're willing to let go of control. Vera tried to stop time because she was afraid of losing things. You try to control architects because you're afraid of chaos. But reality doesn't need to be frozen or controlled. It just needs to be respected." She straightened, meeting his eyes. "I'll make you a deal. I'll help the assembly find and stabilize Vera's other pocket dimensions, the ones that are actually dangerous. But I won't sign your contracts. I won't be leashed. And I won't stop building, creating, exploring what's possible. Take it or leave it." David was silent for a long moment. His jaw worked. His hand tightened on the weapon. The other agents watched him, waiting for orders. Finally, he sighed and holstered the device. "The assembly won't like this." "The assembly will adapt," Maya said. "Or it won't. Either way, I'm done being afraid." 3 months later, Maya stood in the basement of St. Helena's, but everything was different now. The orphanage hadn't been demolished. Instead, it had been purchased, anonymously, though Maya knew the money came from accounts Vera had established decades ago, waiting for an heir. The building was being transformed into something new, a home for young architects, those rare individuals born with the gift, who needed training and community without cages. Maya walked through the renovated basement, touching walls she'd learned to reshape, running her fingers over door frames she'd reinforced with dimensional stability. The space was open now, bright with skylights that shouldn't physically fit, but did, because Maya had learned to bend the rules. At the far end, Vera's room, no longer frozen, no longer secret, had become a library and study. The blueprints were archived carefully, available to students but protected by wards Maya had woven herself. Sister Catherine spent most of her time there, helping teenagers understand equations and principles, patient where Vera had been demanding. "Maya!" Jen appeared in the doorway, covered in paint. She'd been one of the first volunteers, helping convert the dormitories into private rooms. "You have to see what we did with the 3rd floor. It's incredible." Maya smiled. She'd told Jen everything eventually, about the room, the architects, the gift she carried. Jen had listened without judgment, then rolled up her sleeves and asked how she could help. "Some people surprised you like that." They climbed the stairs together, Jen chattering about paint colors and furniture donations. On the 2nd floor landing, they passed 2 teenagers arguing about dimensional theory, new students who'd arrived last week, frightened and confused by abilities they didn't understand. Maya remembered that feeling. Hey, she called to them. Remember, reality isn't rigid. It's responsive. Work with it, not against it. One of the teens, a girl named Sam, looked up hopefully. Will you teach us? Real teaching, not just theory? Every Tuesday and Thursday, Maya promised. But homework first. I want those anchor exercises completed by tomorrow. Sam groaned but grinned, nudging her friend. They disappeared into the library, already debating approaches. Maya continued upstairs with Jen, but her phone buzzed. Unknown number. Her heart clenched. She still got nervous when that happened, remembering David Strand's call 3 months ago. She answered cautiously. Hello? Maya Architects? A woman's voice, young, scared. My name is Priya. I'm 16, and things are happening around me that shouldn't be possible. Doors leading places they shouldn't, rooms that are bigger inside than outside. I found your name in a letter my mother left before she died. She said you'd understand. She said you'd help. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the weight of responsibility and purpose settling onto her shoulders. It wasn't a burden. It was an anchor, grounding her, giving her place and meaning. I understand, Maya said gently. And I'll help. Where are you? As she talked Priya through immediate stabilization techniques, Maya looked out the landing window at St. Helena's grounds. The garden was being restored, wild roses tamed but not destroyed. The fountain was running again. Children from the neighborhood played there after school, never knowing they romped through a place where dimensions had once collapsed. Sister Catherine appeared below, walking slowly but steadily, carrying tea to the library. She looked up, caught Maya's eye, and waved. Whole, present, here. Maya waved back, still listening to Priya's frightened questions, already mentally preparing a room for another lost architect who needed shelter. The mansion had plenty of space, both the space that existed and the space Maya had learned to fold between walls, creating pockets where scared teenagers could practice without accidentally collapsing reality. Listen, Priya, Maya said, I'm going to give you an address. Can you get to Portland? We have a place here, a home. You won't be alone anymore. I've always been alone, Priya whispered. Not anymore, Maya said firmly. Not ever again. On a Friday evening, 6 months after everything changed, Maya returned to the library and found something impossible. Not dangerous impossible, not reality collapsing impossible, just gently, wonderfully impossible. A new door had appeared in the library's back wall. Old oak, carved with geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly, humming with dimensional energy. Maya approached it slowly, her heart racing. She'd learned to identify different architects by their signatures, the unique way each person bent space, and this signature was achingly familiar. She touched the door handle. It was warm. Maya opened the door and stepped into June 14th, 1952. Not the frozen version, the real version, alive and breathing. She stood in Vera's workshop on that summer afternoon, and it was perfect. Sun streamed through windows that looked out on a garden in full bloom. The record player spun, releasing Duke Ellington's sophisticated jazz. Tea steamed in a delicate cup, and at the drafting table, pencil moving across paper with precise strokes, sat a woman Maya had only seen in photographs. Vera Architects looked up, and her eyes, Maya's eyes, passed down through generations, widened with joy. Maya, she breathed, you found the way through. How? Maya's voice cracked. You're dead. You died before I was born. I did, Vera set down her pencil, smiling. But I built this space between, this moment suspended, not frozen, suspended, waiting. I knew someday my heir would learn to reach backward through time to find me here. I've been practicing my greeting for 70 years. Maya laughed, and it came out as a sob. She moved forward, and Vera rose, and they embraced. Solid, real. Grandmother and granddaughter meeting for the first time across decades. I read your letter, Maya said into Vera's shoulder. I stabilized the room. I changed it, though, made it flow instead of freeze. I know, I felt it happen. Vera pulled back, studying Maya's face. You solved the problem I never could, how to preserve without imprisoning, how to hold without controlling. You're already a better architect than I was. I had a good teacher, several actually. Maya thought of Sister Catherine, of the trial and error of learning, of the teenagers who asked questions that made her see things differently. And I didn't do it alone. That was your mistake, trying to do everything yourself. One of many mistakes. Vera gestured to the tea service. Sit, we have time. This moment will hold as long as we need it to. They sat, and Vera poured tea that was somehow still perfectly hot after 70 years. Maya studied her grandmother, the sharp intelligence in her eyes, the architect's perpetual slight distraction as part of her mind always calculated dimensions, the gentle sadness around her mouth. Catherine, Vera said quietly, your mother, tell me about her. I died when she was 19, pregnant with you, running from the assembly. I never got to meet you, never learned if she escaped. Tell me she had some happiness. Maya swallowed hard. She did. She hid me well, loved me enough to give me up. And Sister Catherine, your sister, Catherine's aunt, raised me with all the love she couldn't express directly. I was never alone, even when I thought I was. Good, Vera's eyes shimmered. That's good. They talked for hours about architects and reality, about family and loss, about the students Maya was teaching, and the structures she was learning to build. Vera showed Maya advanced techniques, shortcuts Vera had discovered, mistakes to avoid. Maya told Vera about the modern world, about technology and change, about how the assembly had evolved and how it still needed reforming. Finally, as the light began to shift toward evening, Maya said, I should go. People will worry. Yes, Vera stood, but she was smiling. But you can come back. This moment will always be here, suspended between past and present. Whenever you need guidance or just want to talk to your grandmother, you can step through that door. Won't that damage the timeline? Darling, we're architects. We don't damage timelines. We weave them. Vera hugged her again, fierce and tight. Go build beautiful things, Maya. Build them for both of us. Maya stepped back through the door and found herself in St. Helena's library. Sister Catherine looked up from where she was shelving books. You found it, the old woman said, not questioning, just knowing. The suspended moment. Vera told me she was building it near the end. You knew? I suspected. Sister Catherine returned to her shelving. There's tea in the kitchen, and dinner in an hour. Sam burned the pasta again, but she's getting better. Maya laughed and headed to the kitchen, where 5 teenagers were arguing about sauce consistency and whether dimensional manipulation counted as cheating at cooking. She settled the argument. It did, but only if you got caught. Salvaged the pasta and shared a meal with her found family. That night, lying in her room in her real home, Maya thought about anchors and foundations, about what held a life together and gave it meaning. She'd started with nothing. No parents, no name, no place to belong. Now she had students, purpose, and a door to her grandmother suspended between moments. She had Sister Catherine's steady presence, Jen's friendship, and a mansion full of lost architects finding their way home. Most importantly, she had a choice, the thing her mother had died to give her, the choice to build or not build, to teach or not teach, to reshape reality or let it be. Freedom wasn't the absence of responsibility. It was the power to choose which responsibilities mattered. Maya closed her eyes, feeling the house settle around her. Tomorrow she'd teach Sam to weave stronger dimensional anchors. She'd help Priya understand why her bedroom kept shifting locations. She'd continue negotiations with the assembly about training standards and student protections. But tonight, she simply rested in the space she'd created. Not a pocket dimension frozen in time, but a real place that grew and changed and breathed. A home built on love and choice, and the understanding that the strongest structures were the ones that bent without breaking. In the library below, the door to June 14th, 1952, hummed softly, holding a grandmother's love across 70 years. And in Portland, Oregon, in a crumbling Victorian mansion that refused to fall, an orphan girl who'd found her name and her power finally found something more important. She found where she belonged. Sometimes the rooms that save us are the ones we build ourselves, not with bricks and mortar, but with courage, choice, and the understanding that we're stronger when we're not alone. Maya's story reminds us that family isn't always who shares our blood, legacy isn't always what we inherit, and home isn't always where we start. Sometimes it's where we learn to stop running and start building.